All right, let's go to other issues because, of course, the PM just wants to talk about The Voice. But I know, I've got family in the real world. I know you sit around the table at the end of the month struggling or basically cherry picking what bills you can pay now and what you perhaps can put off. And power is key to all of that. The numbers are shocking. In the wholesale energy market, power prices in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, well, they have gone up by around 250% over just the last 7 years. 250%. In other markets, power bills, retail markets, well, it's 20% increase this year alone. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. Not only are our coal-fired power plants ageing, of course, to the point where they're going to be shut down in a matter of weeks, if not months, but the rollout of renewables is faltering because the price of solar panels or wind turbines are going up, and the cost of transmission infrastructure and firming infrastructure, so this is a lot like gas or batteries or pumped hydro, well, that's out of control, and it doesn't have a social licence to run across our prime agricultural land, as you've heard people affected here on my show. It's a mess. This is what happens when you let control of the energy grid, and it leaves the hands of the engineers, the geologists and the physicists, and it gets handed to virtue signalling and technically clueless politicians and bureaucrats. Let's discuss this in a bit more with the Australian's Environment Editor, Graham Lloyd. Graham, welcome. Let's pick up this stuff this morning, the draft ruling from the Australian Energy Market Commission, talk about raising the market price cap because they say urgent new generation is needed. This is a bit of a process, but explain it in simple terms for people at home and what they might expect in terms of now further increases.
Well, good evening, Peter. This is the topsy-turvy world of energy policy in which we now live, where we're told to believe that you have to make power more expensive to make it cheaper. Effectively, the market operator has warned that there's a lack of supply in the system and people aren't willing to build it because they can't get enough money. So the response is to lift the wholesale price at times of tight demand, from about $16,000 a megawatt hour to $23,000. This will flow through to people's power bills. The estimate is that it will represent about another 3% on top of the 20% that's just been experienced. And the promise is, well, look, if we do this, prices may fall in the future, but it's a bit unclear how that will be the case.
I mean, how many times have we heard renewables are cheap, wind and solar is cheap, we'll go down this path and you know, things will be better off for families. I mean, well, I've got to hear, have a listen to all these Labor people before the election.
Reducing power prices by $275.
By 2025, $275 a year.
$275 a year.
We'll get power prices down by $275 a year.
And now under pressure today, he says, that was just a projection. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it, Peter? And it characterises the whole area that claims are made about what's going to happen in the future, and then it doesn't happen. Oh, well, it didn't happen. That was modelling. And in this case, the promise was clearly made during the election campaign. We then went to, well, look, they'll be cheaper than they otherwise would have been. And to now it's, well, look, it's not going to happen.
Chris Bowen today cancelled the Howard-era Kyoto carbon credit scheme 25 years after the carryover accounting system was created. He says we've got to get rid of it. It's a remnant of the climate wars. What's this all about?
Well, this is all about Australia did such a terrific job meeting its Kyoto targets, and in fact was one of the only countries in the world that did so, that we overachieved them. And the rules at the time were you can hang on to those and you can use them to offset promises in the future. And there was always this big argument that, well, oh no, look, it's money in the bank, but we shouldn't be allowed to use it. In the event with the Morrison government, we didn't need it, but we held it in reserve. Now we're saying, no, look, we'll just put aside all that good work and we'll just keep going on regardless and not make any use of those credits. In an accounting sense, it's sort of like throwing away your savings account and beginning at the start all the time.
I'm going to leave it there, Graham, but I want to talk to you next week about offshore wind farms, because we're starting to get blowback from Australians about this, just like we're seeing from regional people about these big transmission lines. But I'm short on time. I'll leave that for next week. Thanks for your time tonight, though.